Hey there, hope you're doing well. And today we're going to look at some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy Reddit stories, consider liking, subscribing, and maybe hitting that notification bell too. Let's get started with today's first story. Much love, everyone. Today's first story comes from I'm not looking forward to the confrontation. My wife, who is 29 and has been with me for 7 years, cheated on me with a longtime friend in mid-July. I became suspicious and checked her phone, where I found text messages exchanged between them. These messages were from the day after the affair was revealed, discussing how great their sexual encounters were and expressing love for each other. They even talked about a past argument between us, laughing as she shared my words with him. I tried to convey to her that we might be entering a new phase in our marriage characterized by comfort and complacency, which can sometimes feel dull after being together for several years. However, she firmly believes we've grown apart, despite our time spent together filled with meaningful conversations and good intimacy. She remains unaware that I am aware of her betrayal. I've consulted with a lawyer, and divorce papers are being prepared. This isn't the first time she has cheated. The initial incident occurred during our dating phase. We had a 6-month break, reconciled, and eventually married. On the rare occasions the topic of her past infidelity arises, I've made it clear that if it were to happen again, our relationship would be over. For 6 years, we had a stable relationship without major issues. However, about a year ago, she started to become distant and would not reciprocate my affection, such as not hugging me back at all. I suppose that distance contributed to her decision to have the affair. Fast forward to now, I've known about her infidelity for 3 weeks and have been waiting for the appropriate time to confront her after securing the divorce paperwork. Initially, she showed a lack of interest in me, but this week, she appears to be feeling guilt over her actions and is showing more interest in our relationship. She has been trying to make amends in her own way, such as doing household chores like washing dishes and cooking without allowing me to help, almost as if she is punishing herself. In my perspective, she has betrayed my trust completely, leading to immense pain, and it seems impossible for her to genuinely love me if she could behave this way. Financially, we have been managing, but it has been tough since she has been reluctant to work. She has just started a part-time job at minimum wage that barely covers her expenses. I feel burdened as if I am carrying the entire weight of our life together, and she is not truly my partner. Nonetheless, I still care for her and value the life we've built together and worry about her well-being. I fear she could easily slip into a severe depression. The only logical step seems to be divorce, but I am concerned about her reaction and how challenging it will be to resist the urge to take her back. Part of me wishes she would simply leave with her new partner. I understand I need to go through with the divorce, but I dread the impending heartbreak, loneliness, and other unforeseen challenges. How do I approach this situation? Story 1 comments. Stay resilient, my friend. She will likely put up a strong resistance to let you go since she's not prepared to end things with you yet. She and her boyfriend have a different plan for a few months from now. Don't be swayed by it. Maintain your principles. Loyalty is the least you should expect in a relationship. Keep us updated on how it turns out when you confront her. Story 1 comments. I believe that if you've experienced infidelity before, it tends to lessen the impact of the emotions usually associated with betrayal. You're not really taken aback, you're aware of their potential actions, but it's still disappointing to realize that they took your sincere trust and cast it aside. If I had solid evidence, I would handle it in much the same way. I would keep everything to myself to fully understand the situation and ensure I was organized before presenting any documentation. This approach eliminates the possibility of deceit, leaving no room for misunderstandings. Since you've decided to pursue a divorce, cutting off contact right away is the wisest choice. This will prevent her from drawing you back into her chaotic life. She made her decisions and chose to betray someone she relied on the most, and now she needs to face the consequences of those actions. If you're genuinely concerned about her well-being, Consider texting her parents as she is being served so they can support her and ensure she doesn't act impulsively, giving her a safe place to stay that night. This way, they will be ready to handle the situation. Infidelity and divorce create a ripple effect that impacts everyone involved. Wishing you strength during this tough time. Story 1 comments. She is on the brink of breaking down, and naturally, you'll feel the urge to help her. However, she is not a child. It's essential to recognize that she needs to learn to rely on herself. If you don't, you're going to weigh yourself down and eventually feel bitter about dedicating your life to supporting an adult who behaves selfishly and lacks respect for you. Once you file for separation, cut off all communication with her. No phone calls, no messages, nothing. She will likely try every means of contact and use various emotional appeals to pull you back in. Resist the temptation to rescue her. It's time to stop playing the hero. She is an adult and should start behaving like one. Regarding your life after filing, expect to experience a range of emotions, but in time, you will adjust to your new circumstances and find happiness again. Story 1 update. This is my second update regarding my current situation. I want to extend my gratitude to everyone for the support and suggestions from my previous posts. Your kindness has genuinely lifted my spirits and reassured me that I'm not facing this alone. I realize now that I jumped the gun with that 3-day countdown. The paperwork ended up taking much longer than I was informed it would. However, I finally have everything, and the pieces are beginning to fit together. I plan to serve her the papers a week from today, but as we all know, things might not unfold exactly as I hope. My soon-to-be ex-wife is still unaware that I discovered her infidelity over a month ago and have been preparing for our separation. I've been living with her and pretending that nothing is wrong this entire time, and she remains completely clueless. It has been surprisingly difficult not to catch her in the act. I've caught glimpses of her texting him, and there have been countless opportunities where I could have confronted her. She hasn't even changed her password and still refers to him as just a friend. It can be challenging to maintain my composure when she brings him up, but I manage to keep it together. At times, I feel a twinge of guilt plotting against her to pull the rug out from under her, not because of what she deserves but due to the moral implications of my own actions. Some days, it's hard to hide my anger towards her, while other days it feels like a surreal dream. We had a significant argument about our relationship, during which I managed to address many of her poor decisions without revealing that I'm aware of everything. I told her that she didn't love me and that I haven't been important to her for quite some time. That was a week ago, and I've since used that fight as a convenient cover. Now, if I seem distant or upset, she attributes it to our argument. Previously, I was the sole anchor holding our relationship together, but now that I'm aware of her betrayal, I see no reason to invest any more effort. Consequently, our relationship has drastically deteriorated, and it seems like she realizes this. Since that fight, she appears to have chosen me over her affair partner. This is clearly not how it should work. She should have made that choice when we got married, making any choice unnecessary. She's been putting in more effort to show me attention and communicate, expressing her desire to make things work. However, from my perspective, it feels like too little, too late. There's nothing she can do to fix the situation she created. She made her decision, and now she must live with it. Her infidelity started because my role as the central figure in her life was challenged. Her happiness stemmed from the significant attention she received from me. Instead of discussing her feelings with me, she sought validation elsewhere. What I find incredibly amusing is that the men she has had affairs with do not prioritize her either. One often ignored her for weeks, and another has an ex-wife and child whom he told her would always come first. He has been spotted with other women around town, despite being a youth pastor. So she isn't even second to him, even though they claim their relationship is special. He even mentioned he plans to move to co-parent with his ex. Yet somehow, this doesn't seem to bother her, while my focus on school does. Now here's the update as of today. In response to our big argument, She has decided to stay with her parents for a few weeks to clear her mind. This makes everything significantly easier for me since I won't have to worry about her resisting leaving or acting out in any unexpected ways. She has already made plans to return. Little does she know, I have arranged for her to be served divorce papers the day after she arrives at her parents' place. So I have a week left, and I can't wait for it to be over. While I want this to conclude, it also means this last week is the final time I will see my dog. It's tough because we are very attached. Unfortunately, I have no chance of keeping him due to some special circumstances I won't go into detail about, but it's virtually impossible for me to retain him. I will miss him deeply. Story 1 Update Comments. Absolutely, man. Many of us are totally caught off guard by this. You've identified the issue and are taking decisive action. The way you're managing this situation is truly commendable. Props to you, man. She's definitely going to sense it, bro. However, I would advise you to brace yourself for the emotional consequences that might hit you. I haven't looked at your earlier posts, but even with your clear-headed approach, I get the feeling that you're riding a wave of adrenaline and momentum right now. Things are about to get intense and the emotional roller coaster is either just starting or it's already begun. You're doing a fantastic job, but my main concern is that you don't get caught off guard by an emotional whirlwind. Stay strong and remember that you're navigating this really well. Story 1 Update Comments. Thank you. I've been a bit concerned about the emotional aftermath. When my apartment is quiet and I'm by myself, it could become difficult. However, I'm not entirely sure. I've already gone through a challenging emotional ride with her in the past. She was unfaithful during our relationship, and that hit me hard. So I have some experience in dealing with it. Additionally, I will definitely keep myself occupied with school starting up, exercising, searching for an internship, and I have some wonderful friends who are there for me. On top of that, I'll be graduating in less than a year with an engineering degree from a prestigious university. I believe I'll be just fine and have confidence that I will emerge from this okay. I won't allow her to hinder my future. I also plan to see a therapist in a couple of weeks. Story 1 Update Comments. Yes, she was unfaithful about 4 years into our relationship. I was just starting my military career, and she was supportive, but then I discovered messages from another guy. We ended our relationship, and she subsequently had a 6-month affair with him. Once that relationship fell apart, she reached out to me again, and we spent a year rebuilding our connection before getting married. I made it clear that if she ever cheated on me again, I would walk away. She expressed remorse, and for a while, we enjoyed a wonderful relationship until she began to feel unhappy. Determining whether someone can change is quite challenging. It often hinges more on the individual than the circumstances. Consider the reasons behind his infidelity. Are you both able to remove the specific triggers? To me, the act of cheating negates any affection that person may claim to have. It's hard to believe they can truly love you while also causing you pain. On the other hand, no one is without flaws. I gave my wife one opportunity to improve, but she wasted it. If this is truly the first time he has cheated, there may be a chance for recovery. However, it's essential to recognize that you remain at a higher risk of him repeating the behavior, particularly if he faces no consequences. Story 1 Update 3 days until I go scorched earth. All the people reminding me in 3 days have made me realize it might not actually be that quick. My lawyer will provide me with the documents in 3 days, but I need time to thoroughly review them to ensure everything is accurate, which could take longer. I apologize for the delay. However, she will face consequences eventually. Last week, I shared that I discovered my wife's infidelity, but haven't confronted her yet. I want to have everything organized and prepared before I do that. To that end, I managed to download a comprehensive text message log of our conversations with the other person involved. I was shocked to find out she is in a much worse situation than I previously thought. Initially, I believed her affair started in July, but that's not the case. Not only did her infidelity begin in May, but she also had another affair from March to May, which included unprotected sex with a heroin addict. This brings the total number of her cheating partners to 4. Now regarding the current person involved, she initially won him over by lying about our relationship. She claimed that I insult her and am unkind, which is entirely false. This gave him a twisted reason to justify his actions. He manipulated her by telling her she deserves better, claiming that I am worthless and childish, among other things. He actually sees himself as a relationship coach. He listens to her grievances about me and suggests how I would react or why I acted the way I did. The person she is cheating with is giving her advice on how to deal with our relationship. That's just outrageous. The issues she had were completely unknown to me. She never expressed her dissatisfaction. It's worth noting that he has never met me, yet he believes he can predict my every move. This man boasts about his control over others, and he finds pride in it. He considers himself some sort of expert in relationships, which is quite absurd. He is a church minister and brags about helping a youth group connect with God. On one occasion, he mentioned how he assisted a teenager in breaking up with his girlfriend and felt he handled consoling her well, even claiming she became suicidal afterward. She has completely fallen for this facade of a good person. It's sheer manipulation. He describes her living situation with me as imprisonment and portrays me as the villain. Meanwhile, I'm the one who embraces her, pays her bills, and warmly welcomes her home from work. I hold her in high regard above anyone else. I must admit, I place great importance on self-improvement and believe that people should always strive to be better. However, over the past 10 years, she hasn't made any progress. She is overweight, dropped out of college, and works a minimum wage part-time job. Years ago, I encouraged her to better herself, asking her to join me at the gym or engage in any sport, but she always declined. For 4 years, she was unemployed while I accepted the burden of her student loans and high credit card debt. I requested weekly that she seek employment, but she never made an effort. I even offered to support her education financially, allowing her to pursue any field of study, but she still did nothing. After years of urging her to focus on herself, I became increasingly frustrated and eventually criticized her for her lack of ambition. At times, my exasperation led me to unkind remarks, and I regret that deeply. I eventually stopped criticizing her a few years ago, before her affairs began. Despite my past criticisms, she genuinely loved me, but now that I've stopped, she seems to no longer care for me. My critical comments weren't born from hatred. I believe that a marriage should be an equal partnership. I wanted her to attain that equality, but she wasn't interested. I always assumed we could rely on one another for support, yet she leaned only on me. Now that I'm attending school and need support myself, she has completely unraveled, seeking out affairs and holding resentment while failing to address her issues with me. Instead of discussing her problems with me, she goes to her affair partner, who then tells her how I would likely respond. She confided in her mother about the affair, trying to portray me as the villain, but her mother didn't buy it. My wife became upset that her mom wasn't supportive of her, and she complained to her affair partner, who quickly took her side and rationalized her mother's disbelief. My wife is looking for validation from someone who agrees with her and justifies the terrible things she's done to me. She feels ashamed and attempts to mask it by convincing herself that I am a terrible person. She lacks emotional intelligence and hardly pays attention to me, unable to read my feelings at all, while I can see through her completely. Her perception of me does not align with who I truly am. She seems stuck on the person I was in the past, but I've changed significantly over the last few years, yet she hasn't noticed. She won't leave me because she knows she has it pretty easy with me. She told her affair partner that if she were to leave, she would have nothing. I'm a busy student now and cannot give her as much attention as I once did. I suspect this shift is what sparked her infidelity. If anything else competes for my attention, she becomes extremely unstable. So here we are now. I've gone through all her messages. She still has no clue that I am aware of her appalling behavior. I expect to receive divorce papers on Wednesday, and I can't wait to disrupt her world. Initially, I wanted to handle things amicably, but after reading everything, I feel like taking a scorched earth approach. I want her to fully grasp the severity of her actions. Last week, I mentioned not looking forward to the confrontation, but now I'm eager for it. I can't wait to confront her with her own messages and expose the manipulation from her affair partner. I'm looking for support regarding my situation and potential solutions to a dilemma we have. We share a dog that she is deeply attached to and would fight for fiercely, yet neither of us has the financial means to battle over it in court. How can I keep my dog without racking up $30,000 in legal fees? Yes, she's unpredictable enough to consider going to those lengths over the dog. I'm contemplating serving her the divorce papers and leaving with my belongings and the dog on the same day, ideally before she receives the papers. The only issue is that I attend school and need to be back there in September. There's much more to this story, but the text messages with her affair partner amount to about 100 pages, so this is just a brief overview. Story 1 comments updated. My wife shared every detail of her involvement with the guy who deals heroin with the new affair partner. It seems to be part of that coaching nonsense. I appreciate your advice on informing the senior pastor. I was uncertain whether they would be interested in hearing anything. Should I provide him with the entire 100 pages, even though it's filled with explicit messages? Should I edit that content, or just share the most pertinent excerpts? Story 1 comments updated. I completely understand your perspective, and you are absolutely correct. My husband cheated on me 5 years ago after being married for 9 years. We are still together, and as far as I know, it hasn't happened again, though I believe deep down that a partner can sense things like that. Honestly, the main reason I chose to stay was that I lost my job just 4 days before finding out about his infidelity, and we had 2 children under 3. We truly cared for each other, but that hasn't been enough to erase the pain. He never showed real remorse, but he was shaken and stressed enough not to repeat the betrayal. I made things difficult for both him and the other person, and while I know it wasn't the kindest thing to do, I take pride in that. I admit that I haven't forgotten or forgiven, but it doesn't consume me. I've accepted it as part of my coping process. I wholeheartedly agree that forgiveness is the better option, but if you're able to accept what happened and move on, that's valid too, believe me. By the way, for several years, I worked on a project with a coordinator who is 15 years my senior. There was a strong connection and significant attraction, but I chose to resist, and nothing inappropriate occurred, not even a hurtful text message. It wasn't that I didn't desire it, I was simply hurt and didn't want to inflict more pain. You know the saying, that hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, and I can assure you that I fit that description perfectly. Story 1 comments updated. Please provide another update once everything has unfolded. I suggest leaving a copy of the messages with the divorce papers on the table after you go. Avoid any actions that might be seen as vengeful, especially if the situation turns hostile in court. I wouldn't inform her about you mentioning it to the senior pastor of the guy. You should definitely go ahead and do it, but keep it from her and let her discover it through him. He probably won't testify due to the embarrassment it could cause him, so she won't have any concrete proof if you don't share it with her. I'm going to turn this one over to you. What do you make of this situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, support, and time mean the world to me. So, thank you so much for being part of this. I really appreciate your time. I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.